know that you've told me before that your version of Snow White is different. What did you mean by that?
I mean, you know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
You do, and you have this narcissistic nightmare trying to ruin a film.
Rachel Zegler just melted down live on Instagram. No script, no filters, just rage, frustration, and denial. And if you were wondering why Disney's Snow White remake is crashing and burning at the box office, this meltdown didn't cause it. It confirmed it. Because Rachel didn't just insult the legacy of a classic, she dismissed the fans, went political, and turned a fairy tale into a $300 million disaster. But this meltdown was just the final spark in a fire that's been burning for years. This wasn't a simple remake. Disney replaced Snow White's core storyline with what they called a modern feminist update, but to many, it felt more like a rejection of everything the original stood for. The prince was eliminated completely, not even a passing mention. Romance, once the heart of the story, was dismissed outright by the film's star as weird and creepy. And the dwarves, gone too. In their place, a diverse group of magical creatures and varying in gender, height, ethnicity, and backstory. A move Disney said was more inclusive, but that many critics saw as a direct insult to the beloved originals. Even the name Snow White, once tied to the iconic skin as white as snow line, was reframed. Rachel Zegler, a Latina actress, said it had nothing to do with physical appearance, and that her version of Snow White would be strong, independent, and not defined by beauty. That might sound progressive on paper, but fans were quick to point out the irony of starring in a remake of a film you don't believe in. Instead of honoring the charm, symbolism, and simplicity of the 1937 masterpiece, the studio treated it like an outdated relic, something broken that needed fixing. Nostalgia wasn't just ignored, it was actively erased. And rather than embrace what made the original timeless, Disney seemed more interested in rewriting it through the lens of modern-day activism, as if childhood magic had to come with a lecture. This isn't nostalgia, it's narrative surgery. And guess who was leading that charge? In red carpet interviews, Rachel laughed at the original Snow White. Not once, but multiple times. She's not going to be saved by the prince. She's not dreaming of love. That's weird. It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said them. The smirk, the sarcasm, the subtle eye rolls. The performance of someone who seemed to believe she was too evolved, too enlightened, to take part in something as outdated as a classic Disney love story. The tone, arrogant, dismissive, detached. She didn't just critique the original, she mocked it while still cashing the Disney paycheck, wearing the costumes, and attending the premieres. Clips of her interviews spread like wildfire. Millions watched, millions reacted, TikToks exploded, YouTube creators stitched her sound bites with captions like, "Who cast this?" and "You don't deserve this role." And fans, even lifelong Disney loyalists, asked the most obvious question: why take the role if you clearly don't respect the story? Even David Hand, the son of the original 1937 director, spoke out. He said Walt Disney would be rolling in his grave, and that this new version was the opposite of what the company once stood for. But Rachel didn't backtrack. She didn't clarify. She didn't even flinch. She called the backlash toxic. She said her critics didn't understand what empowerment looks like. She kept going, but Rachel didn't just say it. She kept doubling down. Rachel's X account became a full-blown war zone. It started with what should have been a harmless Snow White promo, a thread meant to get fans excited. Instead, right in the middle of it, she dropped a Free Palestine tweet. No context, no warning, just an abrupt injection of politics into a Disney marketing push. It didn't stop there. She began mocking critics, brushing off fan concerns with phrases like "stay mad" and "go touch grass." She liked and reposted tweets that insulted Disney traditionalists, many of whom had grown up idolizing the original film. Some were called incels, Nazis, and bootlickers by users she engaged with. Then came the jab at Donald Trump, a vague post that seemed harmless to her audience, but to Disney execs, a PR nightmare. Snow White wasn't just a movie, it was a global brand, and Rachel's posts were setting fires in every market. But the real damage came when her pro-Palestine stance indirectly led to death threats aimed at her co-star Gal Gadot, who is Israeli. Fan accounts began tagging Gal in hate posts. Her family photos were being doxxed. Within days, Disney was forced to hire private security to protect her. According to leaked reports, producer Mark Platt personally flew to New York to meet with Rachel. He begged her to take the post down. She refused. She claimed she had a right to speak her truth, but what started as speaking her truth spiraled into alienating fans, dividing cast members, and fracturing Disney's image at a critical moment. She made a fairy tale political, then blamed everyone else for the fallout, and that fallout was massive. According to Variety, Disney insiders are done. They've stopped defending Rachel privately. The gloves are off. One studio rep reportedly said off the record, "We gave her the keys to the castle and she burned it down." Multiple executives have confirmed that Rachel wasn't aligned with the brand from the beginning. She pushed back on every traditional princess promo, refusing to do legacy press, skipping influencer events, and dismissing the usual red carpet talking points as regressive and outdated. She didn't want to be marketed as a princess. She didn't want to promote love, kindness, or romance. She wanted to redefine the role, and Disney let her. That decision? Catastrophic. She challenged every marketing decision, from trailers to poster art to talking points. Press teams were left scrambling. Coordinated brand moments were pulled at the last minute. At one point, she reportedly walked out of a planned promo shoot because she didn't like the dress. One executive told reporters she had pushed the studio into an unwinnable position. They couldn't fire her without backlash. They couldn't silence her without making headlines. So they stood by and watched the storm hit. By the time the premiere rolled around, the damage was done. The vibe wasn't magic, it was damage control. The smiles were forced, the PR machine was crumbling, and Disney, the most powerful name in family entertainment, knew it. They had lost control of the narrative, the campaign, and the audience. And then the box office numbers came in. Snow White cost Disney nearly $300 million between production and marketing, a budget that was supposed to kick off a new era of live-action fairy tale reimaginings. Instead, it became one of the most expensive flops in Disney history. Opening weekend numbers came in at a painful $43 million domestic, well below projections, and nowhere near enough to recover what the studio had spent. International markets didn't save it either. In fact, the backlash had spread globally, but the real damage wasn't just in theaters, it was everywhere else Disney expected to cash in. Merchandise is tanking. Target pulled Snow White dolls from end caps. Kids' costumes are sitting unsold in warehouses. No one wants the lunchboxes, the backpacks, the princess dresses. Tie-ins at Disney parks are being quietly paused. At Disneyland, the Snow White meet and greet was scaled back. Promotional banners were quietly swapped out. Even employees have admitted off the record, "We were told to downplay it." Retail partners are now backing out of inventory commitments. Why? Because kids aren't dressing up as this version of Snow White, and their parents? Many are actively avoiding it. Disney didn't just lose money, they lost trust, and they handed the microphone to someone who used it to push people away. The film was supposed to unite generations. Instead, it became a cautionary tale, and then, just when it couldn't get worse, Rachel hit go live. Rachel went live on Instagram and delivered what fans are now calling a complete meltdown, the kind of stream that makes PR teams quit mid-contract. She rambled incoherently for nearly 20 minutes. She contradicted herself. She choked up 1 second, then smirked the next. It was raw, but not in the way fans expected. She didn't apologize. She didn't explain. She blamed. The media twisted everything. People just weren't ready for a modern Snow White. I did everything right and they still hated it. She spoke like someone shocked that the public hadn't fallen in love with her version of the character. Someone offended that people dared to want a story that resembled the one they grew up with. And the internet lit up instantly. Clips of the meltdown were on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Reels, X, everywhere within hours. Reaction videos stitched her stream with sarcastic captions like, "She really doesn't get it, does she? No accountability, just vibes." This is how you tank a $300 million movie. One creator got over 5 million views just repeating Rachel's quote, "They didn't want to understand me," and following it with a deadpan, "No, we understood you." That's the problem. But maybe the most telling part? Her co-stars didn't say a word. No public support. No, she's being misunderstood. No one reposted the live or came to her defense. And her co-star's silence tells you everything. Gal Gadot, still silent. She hasn't addressed the controversy once. Not the film, not the backlash, not even Rachel's Instagram live. For someone who played the evil queen, Gal's real-life reaction has been nothing but ice-cold detachment. Disney PR completely ghosted. Not a single statement. No damage control, no clarification, no support. It's like the studio is pretending the movie doesn't exist, or at least that Rachel doesn't. Industry insiders, they're not mincing words. She's a PR nightmare. She's burned too many bridges. She's unmanageable. Behind the scenes, reps are reportedly pulling future opportunities. Casting directors are calling her a risk. Even agents are warning clients not to associate too closely. And Rachel, she's trying to pretend it's fine. She's removed Snow White from her Instagram bio. Her fan base is splintered, torn between defending her and admitting the obvious. Influencers who once praised her are now deleting old collabs, removing tags, and quietly stepping away. One creator who previously called Rachel the future of Disney posted this last week. I take it back. This was not it. The momentum she once had is gone. The shine has faded, and the industry, it's watching carefully. She was supposed to be Disney's next-gen icon. Now she's their biggest mistake of the year. But this isn't just about one actress. It's about Disney's direction. Rachel's version of feminism wasn't empowering when it was divisive. She didn't update a fairy tale, she tore it down, and then acted shocked when fans walked away. You don't get to mock our childhoods and then cry victim when no one shows up. Disney thought it could rewrite magic and still sell tickets, but now they're sitting on a $300 million loss and a lesson they can't ignore. And if this is where woke fairy tales are headed, Disney may not get another happily ever after.